Ryan, updates on your excellent reporting with Murtaza Hussain in Pakistan.
Yes, thank you. So I've got a new story out this week with my Intercept colleague that uncovers the way that secret Pakistani arms sales to the United States helped to facilitate a controversial bailout from the International Monetary Fund earlier this year. That's according to two sources with knowledge of the arrangement and confirmed by internal Pakistani and American government documents. The arms sales were made for the purpose of supplying the Ukrainian military. Now, the revelations in this story are a window into the kind of behind-the-scenes maneuvering between financial and political elites that rarely is exposed to the public, even as the public pays that price. Harsh policy reforms demanded by the IMF as terms for the bailout kicked off an ongoing round of protests in Pakistan. Major strikes have taken place throughout Pakistan in recent weeks in response to the measures. The protests are the latest chapter in a year-and-a-half-long political crisis roiling the country that began after the U.S. encouraged the ouster of then-Prime Minister Imran Khan over his, quote, aggressive neutrality in the war between Ukraine and Russia. The new reporting starts to put that soft coup into context. As Arif Rafiq, a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute, told me, quote, Pakistani democracy may ultimately be a casualty of Ukraine's counteroffensive. But why did the U.S. even need Pakistan? Now that goes back to the question of our lack of an industrial base. We're great at making $100 million airplanes that fall out of the sky and get lost, but we're not very good at making the basics. Now, Pakistan is known as a production hub for the types of basic munitions needed for grinding warfare. Now, as Ukraine grappled with chronic shortages of munitions and hardware, the presence of Pakistani-produced shells and other ordnances by the Ukrainian military surfaced in news reports about the conflict, though neither the U.S. nor the Pakistanis acknowledged the arrangement. So we obtained a trove of documents that makes it irrefutable. Records detailing the arms transactions were leaked to us earlier this year by a source within the Pakistani military. The documents describe munition sales agreed to between the U.S. and Pakistan from the summer of 2022 to the spring of 2023. Some of the documents were authenticated by matching the signature of an American brigadier general with his signature on publicly available mortgage records in the United States, by matching the Pakistani documents with corresponding American documents, and by reviewing publicly available but previously unreported Pakistani disclosures of arms sales to the United States posted by the State Bank of Pakistan. Now, the weapons deals were brokered, according to the documents, by Global Military Products, which is a subsidiary of Global Ordnance, a controversial arms dealer whose entanglements with less than reputable figures in Ukraine were the subject of a recent New York Times article. Documents outlining the money trail and dealings with U.S. officials include American and Pakistani contracts, licensing, and requisition documents dealing with U.S. brokered deals to buy Pakistani military weapons for Ukraine. Now, the economic capital and political goodwill from the arms sales played a key role in helping secure the bailout from the IMF, with the State Department agreeing to take the IMF into confidence regarding the undisclosed weapons deal. That's according to sources with knowledge of that arrangement and confirmed by a related document. Now, to win the loan, Pakistan had been told by the IMF it had to meet certain financing and refinancing targets related to its debt and foreign investment, targets that the country was struggling to meet. On May 23, 2023, Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S., Masood Khan, sat down with Assistant Secretary of State Donald Lu at the State Department in Washington, D.C. for a meeting about how Pakistani arms sales to Ukraine could shore up its financial position in the eyes of the IMF. The goal of the sit-down, held on a Tuesday, was to hash out details of the arrangement ahead of an upcoming meeting in Islamabad the following Friday between U.S. Ambassador to Pakistan Donald Blum and then Finance Minister Ishaq Dar. Now, Lu told Khan at the May 23rd meeting that the U.S. had cleared payment for the Pakistani munitions production and would tell the IMF confidentially about the program. Lu acknowledged the Pakistanis believed the arms contributions to be worth $900 million, which would help to cover a remaining gap in the financing required by the IMF, pegged at roughly $2 billion. What precise figure that the U.S. would end up relaying to the IMF remained to be negotiated, he told Khan. Now, at the meeting on Friday, Dar brought up the IMF question with Blum, according to a report in Pakistan Today, which said that, quote, the meeting highlighted the significance of addressing the stalled IMF deal and finding effective solutions to Pakistan's economic challenges. Now, securing the loan eased economic pressure, enabling the military government to delay elections and deepen the crackdown against Khan's supporters and other dissenters. The U.S. has remained largely silent about the extraordinary scale of the human rights violations that pushed the future of Pakistan's democracy into doubt. Now, a spokesperson at the Pakistani embassy in Washington declined to comment, referring questions to the State Department. A spokesperson for the State Department denied the U.S. played any role in helping procure the loan. Quote, negotiations over the IMF review were a matter for discussion between Pakistan and IMF officials. The United States was not party to those discussions, though we continue to encourage Pakistan to engage constructively with the IMF on its reform program, unquote. An IMF spokesperson denied the institution was pressured, but did not comment on whether it was taken into confidence about the weapons program, saying, quote, we categorically deny the allegation that there was any external pressure on the IMF in one way or another while discussing support to Pakistan, unquote. Yet U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, speaking to a group of Pakistani reporters before our story was published, said this.
The United States has been very instrumental in making sure that the IMF came forward with its emergency economic relief. Obviously, there are continuing challenges.
Now, I talked to him in the hallway in the Capitol and asked him how he had learned of that. And he said, quote, my understanding based on conversations with folks in the administration has been that we supported the IMF loan package given the desperate economic situation in Pakistan, unquote. Now, the Pakistan government's response has been even more extreme than the Americans. They just flat out denied everything. They said that our story was fabricated, saying, quote, the IMF standby arrangement for Pakistan was successfully negotiated. And they even denied Pakistan does not provide any arms and ammunition to them. Pakistan's defense exports are always accompanied with strict end user requirements. Okay, sure they are. So, this is where we are in the last couple of days in Pakistan as well. There's been this horrifying story that's unfolded over the last several weeks and months, where the child of a man who was detained it turns out by the Pakistani military without charges, without having done anything, just detained as a political prisoner. The kid began suffering such incredible trauma he had to be hospitalized, and this week he died. And there's been mourning across Pakistan has been following this child's descent because of the loss of his father, with no response from the Pakistan military. And so now, because of these the documents that we've been able to review, we can put it all into the global context, that it turns out that this was simply about the U.S. needing a reliable supplier of munitions for the war in Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely. And, Ryan, I wanted to put this thread. I think we have the element here. This is from a Wall Street Journal / I think AEI scholar.
AEI scholar, that's right.
He did a thread basically outlining what he saw as the problems with your reporting. So he says, if this Intercept story is true, and listen, this is a great sentence from this fellow here. Then the PDM government and the Pakistani army deserve the gratitude of the Pakistani people for deftly using a piffling amount of alleged arms transfers to Ukraine to avert an economic catastrophe in Pakistan. So basically, his contention is that your reporting, he's basically putting words in your mouth and says your reporting is necessarily framing all of this as nefarious, corrupt, and a bad thing. Which I don't think your reporting does. I think
this is what happened.
This is what happened. Yeah, exactly. Secondly, though, he's saying, well done for, negotiating behind closed doors. It's almost like this cold realist take that these negotiations are going to happen anyway, so X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's true, but then maybe the U.S. should stop lying about what happened.
And Pakistan lying. Yeah, it's funny when the countries like key defenders are admitting to things that the country itself is still completely denying.
Right.
And by the country, I mean the government. The government is claiming that this is all lies, all fabricated. None of this is true.
Right.
Whereas its defenders are saying, no, this stuff is obviously true.
And it's great.
But it's great, and it's also unimportant.
Right.
Like pick one of these four things and just ride with that.
And I think the fact that the U.S. won't own up to it and Pakistan won't own up to it is that there's a sense of shame about it. And when you have the defenders being like, listen, there's no reason to have any shame over this, it would be so much better if we could just have that conversation, right, and explain why this is just such a wonderful thing to be kind of negotiated in the dark, and then reporters are misled about it, as opposed to saying, no, we wouldn't do that. What? No.
And it's not just shame publicly and shame in the mirror. I think it's complicated geopolitically for Pakistan because its biggest creditor is China, and its close ally in a lot of ways is Russia. Khan was trying to negotiate to get cheap gas in there,
which is why he was resisting getting involved.
Right, exactly. And so both, Russia, for obvious reasons, doesn't want Pakistan making munitions for Ukraine, but China too has been pressuring countries to try to get this war to wrap up. It's no longer a convenient war at all for China, and so to find out that Pakistan, which they lend all of this money to, and trying to help them get the IMF loan as well by kind of refinancing some debt obligations that they didn't have to do, to find out that actually it involved this weapons production is going to be complicated for that relationship as well.
It's really the perfect story, and I don't mean this like perfect in a good way. It's the perfect distillation of the problem with Joe Biden slurring and mumbling at the UN about the U.S. leading the rules-based order, and then at the same time, you have him saying you need the rules-based order to prevent incursions in Ukraine, to prevent aggressors from starting these bloody, invasive wars like Russia did in Ukraine. In order to do that, we're going to sort of violate the rules-based order. As the leader of the rules-based order behind closed doors, we're going to do all kinds of stuff. Like, we're going to use our leverage to change your democratic process. Deal with it, rules-based order. We're on top. We make the rules, even if we don't always follow them.
Right. It is, as Arif Rafiq had said, Pakistan's democracy is just being sacrificed at the altar of
democracy. Of democracy.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect distillation there, unfortunately.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.